Happy Monday, my degenerates. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Die Hard MMA podcast. I am your host. As always, I'm your guy, Clint, and I need to get this Rounders quote off my screen because I clicked just the one button instead of both of them. How is everybody doing this evening? What the hell happened at UFC Vegas 51? I'm still kind of trying to wrap my brain around exactly what went on that night. It was maybe the most insane night of UFC fights we have ever had in our lives. And that's coming off the heels of Bellator 277. Like, absolute chaos last week in the world of MMA. And believe it or not, folks, I don't think it's going to stop based on the looks of UFC Vegas 52 and the fact that we've got both Bellator and PFL coming up this week. So lots of MMA action for the community. How's everybody doing? We've got Mushroom in the chat, the Grateful Dude, Mike Harvey. We've got Kevin, Nate, David, Dean, Uncle Easy, Sean B, Eric Betts Fights, my guy Justin Blockbet MMA, Nigel Lee. We've got Toby. We've got Morgan. Everybody's rolling in here. How's everybody doing? I want to give a special shout out to my guy, Michael Lunday. I know you guys hear his name constantly, but seriously, he's like the OGest of the OG and always sends me, tips and donations. And I just always got to shout him out. He doesn't get enough love from me. The guy basically single-handedly supports my fireball addiction. So thank you, Michael, for always being such a wonderful fan of the show. Hey, so we got a bit of a weird card this week. Oh, Billy saying, hey, from France. Hello, my friend. Always love hearing from people around the world and across the pond. No, we have got a crazy ass card this week again, guys. Let me get this up here. I want to talk briefly, real quickly about last week. I'm a little disappointed because we're actually coming off of a slight loss. As you can see, I'm not rocking the beautiful in blue winning Die Hard stimulus check shirt this week. Had a good little night in Bellator, but the Corey Anderson push, the illegal head contact, would have been the thing that tipped us over the edge for a slight positive weekend. Unfortunately, we just needed 3 more seconds on the clock to get there. They didn't give us that, so that goes down as a push. And then, unfortunately, things did not go well at UFC Vegas 51 for me. I decided, instead of doing my usual gunslinger rapid fire, I'm going to pick a couple of small spots. I'm going to hit those small spots hard and expect to just pile up the chips. And the problem with that is, had I kept my normal unit size on everything and been my usual gunslinging self, we actually would have done okay. I did pretty well. But we don't want to be results-oriented. That's always the hardest part of gambling, is you try not to be too results-oriented. Did you make the right choice beforehand? And I think I made the right choice beforehand. We knew last week was going to be chaos, and they set a record for fouls in one night. So even though it would have turned out okay, even though I would have gotten some spots right, like the Jordan Leavitt decision, luckily I was able to get in live on my girl Sam Hughes at 8-1 after the first round. So put a quarter unit on her. I'm kicking myself there because usually I do at least a half unit on my life bets, but I only did a quarter unit because I wasn't, totally sure that would have pushed us positive. But since I did a quarter unit instead of a half unit, we ended up still hitting the negative. Glad that one cashed at least. Good to see her get a win. But called the Fiallo knockout, didn't bet it. Called the Leavitt win. He didn't get the sub, but didn't bet the money line, so didn't get anything there. It just an overall frustrating night for me. And then, of course, like I said, I got the tattoo. You don't fade Vicente Luque. And the one night where the guy, I've always said he's got the wrestling weakness. We got a guy who can take advantage of it, but I've sworn off of betting against Vicente Luque. Pull-all comes through and gets the damn thing done. So just one of those nights. Zigged when I should have zagged, kept it small loss on the weekend. Can't complain too much about that. Little highs, little lows, I'm okay with. We're chipping away at it. I'm still negative about 13 units at this point for 2022, but we're making progress. We're on our way up. And, that's That's what we're going to do. We're going to chip away at the rest of this year. I think I was in a similar hole last season, actually. If we're season, geez, I'm talking like we're baseball, basketball over here. Last year, 2021, I think I hit a similar downswing of like 25 or 26 units at one point, dug ourselves out of it, ended up plus 34 units in the profit. So it's definitely not over with. We'll make some good moves. We'll make the right spots and make some money. And to that end, I have a very special guest for you today. The captain of Team Lemos himself, none other than Lucrative MMA. Buddy, what's going on? How you doing?
Doing well, brother. I'm happy to be on. This is the perfect card for me to come on. Amanda Lemos is fighting. It's GOAT fight week, the pound-for-pound fighter in the universe. So I'm happy to be on with you, bro. Hopefully we can make some money, man. That's the goal every single week. I just caught the early part of your break, or the last part of your breakdown there. You're saying yesterday or 2 days ago was a very strange weekend. It was not only strange in Bellator with the Corey Anderson headbutt, but it was also strange with like 5 fouls and 5 different fights. A real crazy MMA weekend. That's what we get betting on MMA. It's an insane weekend. So hopefully this weekend goes a little bit more straightforward, and we can dig you out of that hole you're in and try and earn some more cash,
Yeah, man, I'm hoping this is one of those, it's a wild card this week. Much like last week, it's a very sketchy card. There's a couple spots I think that I like. There's a couple spots where I think maybe there is some value, but we get in these runs, man, where they're just trying to get by. The UFC has got to put on a certain amount of shows every single year, and some of these cards are just thrown together because they got to have a show. So it's real tough on some of these cards to make money, man. And this is another week where realistically it's a relatively low level of competition. I can see some more insanity taking place on Saturday.
Yeah, well, like I say often to people who are new to betting on MMA or just bet on MMA in general, and me and you spoke about this in the DMs, when you get these type of cards that you think are a little bit sketchy, it's a bit lower level, which inherently comes with more variance in MMA, the lower level you get. When we got these fighters, we don't have a lot of tape on them. Maybe they haven't been in the right matchups to see what their skill set actually is. When we get these type of cards, right, you don't have to bet on every fight. And typically what you should do as a matter of practice is to go a little bit lighter on those cards. We have 50-something UFC events in a year, 45 UFC events in a year. This weekend, we have like 6 different MMA events. There's Bellator, 2 Bellators, I believe. There's UFC, there's PFL, there's LFA. There's literally going to be almost 100 MMA fights this weekend that are widely available to bet on. So we don't need to bet on every fight, and anytime you get a card like this, if you're not comfortable on the card, you should just take it back a step, 1 or 2 bets. You can even pass on the card altogether. That's what I always try to tell people. And it's a good practice to do if you're new to MMA betting or just, MMA betting in general.
Absolutely. That's great advice. It's what I tried to do last week, and I just picked my spots wrong, unfortunately. So we will correct it. We will get back on track. Always love having you on the show, man. Thanks for taking the time to come and jump on here and talk some fights with us. Let's knock some business out of the way real quick. First off, thank you so much for the donation here. See Days in here already with the $10 dono. Appreciate you very much for that, helping us bring the show live and free from Pub Sports Radio. Everybody smash the like button. We've already got over 120 live viewers. Hit that for me. The lines, as always, are brought to you by Superbook Sports. Make sure you guys go and check them out. I'm going to be doing a lot of cool stuff with Superbook as we get going here throughout the rest of the MMA season. First fight of the card, man. And we have already got an absolute massive favorite. We've got Dean Barry taking on Mike Jackson. And holy hell, Dean Barry is coming in at 11-1 as the favorite. And it's so funny. My reputation precedes me because I got 3 different tweets and I think 2 or 3 different DMs of people like, Clint, let's be honest. You're going to at least sprinkle Mike Jackson, aren't you? I was like, no, I know it sounds like me. I know that sounds like something I would do, but hell no. Guys, If the name Mike Jackson rings a bell for you this week, it's because he was the guy brought in to lose to CM Punk. Like the UFC, when CM Punk is not a fighter, we need somebody to take an L so we can get him a win. They brought this guy in, and it still didn't work. He managed to win the fight. So 37 years old, ran back the tape. I can't hate on him that much. He's got a half-decent jab. He's got a decent body lock. He got absolutely ran through by Mickey Gall when he was much less than the Mickey Gall we see today. And he did get taken down by CM Punk. This is some Bellator shit, man. Like, Dean Barry's 4-1. He is absolutely the real fighter of these two. He's the actual prospect here. He's decent. I can't say he's great. He's still inexperienced. He's got that sideways karate stance. He fires some pretty solid kicks. He's got good hips. He should absolutely run through Mike Jackson here in this spot, Lucrative. I don't know what else to say for this first fight.
Man, what are we going to say? You know, this is an insane fight. Like you said, this is a Bellator fight. It's just really strange. I guess they had to give Mike Jackson another fight, you know, on the contract he signed. I'm sure that's the only reason he's getting another fight. He hasn't fought since that CM Punk fight, if I'm correct, and that's been a few years. So I don't really know what's been going on. On the other hand, we got Dean Barry minus 1,000. I watched Dean Barry, right? And I saw he was minus 1,000. So I was expecting him to be pretty good, you know. I knew who Mike Jackson was, but anytime you see minus 1,000, you don't expect to see a fighter who's not very good. So I watched Dean Barry and I'm like, is this dude really minus 1,000? You know, no disrespect against Dean Barry, but doesn't look like he should be minus 1,000. Obviously, he's fighting another fighter who shouldn't be nowhere near the UFC. So it's weird. The one thing I will say about Dean Barry, which is adding an even more weird layer on this matchup, is he lost one fight in his pro career, right? That was against Anthony Taylor. Anthony Taylor is like a 5-7 fighter, 5 wins, 7 losses, something like that. He might be 5-9. I don't know. Check it, right? 9-5, whatever. He was the one, Anthony Taylor, who fought Tommy Fury, right? He's an MMA fighter. He fought Tommy Fury, the boxing ring. He went to decision with him, 6 rounds. That was when he was trying to set up Jake Paul versus Tommy Fury. Yep. So it's a complete clusterfuck, you know? Like, the guy is Jake Paul's training partner, Taylor, who beat Dean Barry. Now Dean Barry's fighting the guy who fought CM Punk. You know, I mean, it's just it is a Bellator thing, like you said. You know, it's more of a like celebrity thing. Look, Dean Barry looks decent, right? He's nicknamed a sniper, and that's how he fights. He's on the feet. He's got a karate stance. He's bouncing in and out of range. He's got like 4 knockouts within like 30 seconds or a minute or something silly like that, right? He's just fighting people who are not on his level. The one time he got extended, he got choked out by that Anthony Taylor dude, the guy who's got a losing record in MMA, right? So, I mean, look, for me, I kind of feel like I haven't really seen Dean Barry fight anyone decent. The only time he did, if you can call Anthony Taylor decent, he got choked out in round 2. He wasn't able to put him away. He didn't really, I think he hurt him once in round 1, but nothing crazy. Mike Jackson looks fairly tough. I know he got ran through by Mickey Gall. That was a submission. You know what Mickey can do when he gets you on the ground. So we're talking about betting, right? I'm not just breaking this down from a technical standpoint, right? Because there's not much technical analysis I can give you on this one. But from betting, I don't necessarily hate the over 1.5 rounds, the total set at 1.5. Mike Jackson looks like he could be fairly tough. At the end of the day, Clint, when I speak about low-level matchups, like I said when I was just speaking to you about 5 minutes ago about when you need to take a step back from these sketchy cards, when we're talking about low-level matchups, oftentimes there's a lot of variance. I can see the fight go into decision, honestly, but I can also see Dean Barry hitting him one time and Mike Jackson curling up and quitting. So honestly, Absolutely. It's a very sketchy fight. If I was going to play anything, so the viewers are listening, any bet I would give them is the over 1.5 rounds. But that's it from me, man. I spoke way too long on this fight, so.
Yeah, man. It was one of those ones where you can get just suckered in and go down the rabbit hole talking about a fight that just isn't worth the time. Like I'm there with you. over 1.5 seems like kind of the only playable spot on the board. But like you said, it wouldn't shock me if the sniper came out and hit him with one good side kick to the face and dropped him, and that was it. So yeah, I'm going to side with the favorite here. He should probably finish him at some point, but we have nothing to base that off of, man. So let's just keep rolling right along, and we'll pretend that one never happened. The first fight of the night is your fireball and popcorn spot. If you show up a little late to this one, don't even sweat it, man. Next fight up, Marcin Prachnio taking on Philipe Lins. And man, this is my two favorite fades going head-to-head. Lucrative. These are guys that I'm always looking to be on the other side of, and they got lined up here. But it's my first bet of the night, and I know that might sound a little bit crazy here. Marcin Prachnio showed off that shiny new chin of his, a couple of fights ago. This is a guy that is absolutely just well known for not being able to take a punch. He's on a 2-fight win streak. He's got some nasty leg kicks, good strong body kick, chops the tree down. He wings these big power hooks, and the biggest thing I see is he dips his head. Like, as soon as he starts getting just a little bit tired, he starts dipping his head into his opponent. And it was something even Ike Villanueva was starting to take advantage of. He was starting to get clipped with uppercuts. And luckily for Prachnio, he was able to chop the leg a little quicker. So Ike lost that edge in power, wasn't able to keep the offense going there. Philipe Lins, this man is a complete fraud. Since he won the PFL, whoever at the UFC snagged up Lins after he won the PFL tournament probably got fired. Like, this guy has done nothing since coming over to the UFC, and he did not live up to what he was billed as being the PFL winner. He's taken a long sabbatical here. He withdrew from 5 different fights, man. He's been scheduled for 6 fights. His opponent withdrew from 1. He has withdrawn from 5 of those. He's dropping back down to 205 for this one, so he's not going to be at heavyweight. The one thing I noticed that I do like about Lins is he's got fast hands, man. This guy has quick, accurate hands, a nice hard 1-2 down the pipe, and he does like to attack the body. The thing is, he just couldn't quite keep up with those heavyweight boys at the UFC level. I actually think dropping down to 205 is going to be a good move for him as long as he can make the weight. We'll see on Friday if he's able to make it to the scales. But he's going to have a 4-inch reach advantage here in this spot. And honestly, I can't wrap my brain around Marcin Prachnio being a favorite over anybody, man. This is a spot where Prachnio right now is minus 120 as the favorite. Lins, even money plus 100, but he opened up at plus 135. So money coming in on the dog. And I agree with it, man. I jumped in at plus 105, tweeted it out yesterday. I really think that Lins is going to be able to step in here and just be the faster man. He's going to be able to crack Marcin Prachnio. And the way he fights, I mean, honestly, this thing is probably going to be over quick. Now, if the fight gets extended, if he can't quite touch Prachnio's chin, Prachnio might work his way back in. He might chop the leg down. He might attack the body and fold someone like Lins over. But I'm simply not sold on Marcin Prachnio. I really don't think that he is UFC caliber. And with that chin liability, I think that Lins is going to be able to clip him and put him away. So, man, I had to take it. It's most likely a KO spot, but it didn't have the prop yet, so I just hit the money line trying to beat that number before the line flips because I think it's headed that way. You know what I mean? What are you seeing here on this one?
Yeah, I think that's a really solid breakdown, man. I agree with a lot of what you said there. Even mentioning that Prachnio may work himself back in if Philipe Lins isn't able to get him out there. I agree with most of what you said. So Philipe Lins, one thing I will say to counter some of your points there is that he's moving down to light heavyweight now, right? So he was a heavyweight. He's moving down to light heavyweight. One thing you mentioned is that he's a very fast fighter. And you said that you think his speed is going to get him the win against Prachnio. Now, I was also thinking about a play on Lins. And by the way, I still might play Lins by a KO or by inside the distance. The reason why I'm staying off for now is just because one of his best attributes, like you said, is skill. Moving down to light heavyweight, is speed. One of his best skills is speed. Moving down to light heavyweight, he's not going to have the same speed, right? I mean, he will have the same speed, but his opponents are going to be used to that speed a little bit more. He will not have the same speed advantage. So that's why I'm a little bit iffy, because I do think that, his speed is his best attribute. He can catch these guys coming in. He's got very fast hands, very good boxing, and he catches most of the fighters he fights, right? Even if he loses, Andre Arlovski, he got outpointed there, but he caught Andre Arlovski quite a few times. And Andre Arlovski, he's sporting the beard these days. He's got a much better chin than he has done, 10 years ago or whatnot. So we know about Andre Arlovski. But if that was, put it this way, if Prachnio caught them shots that Arlovski caught, I'm thinking Prachnio goes out, but is he going to be able to land them shots when Prachnio is used to this speed, right? Because I don't think Lins is really that fast for a light heavyweight. He's definitely fast for a heavyweight. For light heavyweight, he's still got fast hands, but I wouldn't call him an extremely fast light heavyweight, right? So that's my only qualm. But look, I'm going to say my prediction is that Philipe Lins puts out Marcin Prachnio here. I do think that he finds the knockout in this spot, and I may be targeting the knockout prop or the inside the distance prop if the difference is negligible. So good luck on your bet. I think it's a decent bet, and I might be joining you in some way. We'll see.
I appreciate that, man. I'm probably going to look for that KO prop, and if the line is good, add maybe another unit or a half unit on it, depending on the number, because I do think that's his most reasonable path to victory here in this spot. And I know what you're saying with the, the speed discrepancy between the weight classes, but Ike was faster than Marcin Prachnio. And I think these guys are comparable with their hand speed at least. And the one thing that I think is really going to make the difference is when they're in the pocket, Prachnio wings hooks. He's always going outside. And what Lins does really well is come right down the pipe. And so even if their speed is comparable, even if he's a little slower at light heavyweight, I don't expect extended success. But I think he's quicker than this guy. You know what I mean?
No, man, that's a real solid breakdown. I agree with most of what you said, man. I think you might be cashing a ticket there, bro. And maybe
I
I'll be
hope
with
so.
you.
Dear God, I hope so. It'll be fun if you're on it with me. Hopefully we get that one through. We're going with first dog of the night. I do real quick want to give a shout out, my guy Mike Morris here in the chat. Love you, Clint, but you're the ultimate fade. Sorry, brother. Still love you. Can't honestly remember you having a positive card recently. Tried 2 weeks ago, buddy. Remember the Aljamain Sterling card? That was the one went, up 8 units because I crushed the main event there and hit every gigantic number on the board. But Mike, I appreciate the love, buddy. I appreciate the shout out. Hey, guys, I've always told you, I'm your friendly neighborhood degenerate, right? Like, you don't have to tail me. And I have so far, since I started the podcast and I started taking betting seriously, I've got 3 tracked years worth of betting data. I'm positive 2 out of 3 of them. Every single year I've dropped down to negative minus 20 units at some point throughout the year, and I've clawed my way back to positive in 2 out of 3 of those years. We just ride the wave here, baby. So if you want to tail with me and you want to bet with me, that is fine. If you think I'm worth fading and going the other way, that's fine also. I just hope you make cash. But if you've been fading me, it doesn't work out long-term so far. Just a fair warning. Next fight up, we got Aoriqileng taking on Cameron Else. Another very interesting semi-low level fight, man. I'm not sure what to do with Aoriqileng. I'll be honest, James. Aoriqileng is a guy that sometimes you see him and he looks like he's solid. Sometimes you see him and you look like he's half decent. And then sometimes it's like, holy shit, this guy sucks. Like, he is so hittable and he blocks punches with his face, James. And I don't mean that mockingly. He's one of the dudes that literally like headbutts your hand when you're like jabbing him in the forehead. He will quite literally counter your jab with his forehead. He was the former WLF bantamweight champion. He's doing work at the UFC PI right now. He's tall. He's long for the division. Usually he has a size advantage. It's going to be interesting because he will not have that size advantage here in this fight. So he's used to kind of being the bully. I'm curious to see what it looks like when he's on the opposite end of that because he goes blow for blow, man. He's one of these guys that just relies on his toughness and his durability to get the job done. He's got a nasty lead left hook. He's got 54% takedown defense in the UFC so far, and he's got 3 losses by sub. Cameron Else is 10-5. This dude is big for the division. He is big, but he's not very good. Now, he made his UFC debut against Kyler Phillips. He's training at Syndicate MMA, so He's young. I can see some levels coming from Cameron Else. I don't really expect a ton out of him as far as being a UFC level fighter, but I think he can improve on what we have seen so far. The big red flag for me is, boy, does he load up. Like, this is a guy that swings for the fences with one big shot at a time. Heavy and flat-footed, so you can see it coming a mile away. He dips his head and swings those overhands, but he's a BJJ black belt, and he's got some nasty front chokes, man. If you look at some of his regional scene stuff, he catches these people in guillotines and darces. He has no problem jumping the gilly. All of his 10 wins are in that first round, and then he's got 3 losses by knockout. When he gets extended, he just can't seem to tank it. He's going to have a 2-inch reach advantage here in this spot. I'm not sure what's going on here with the weight, though, James, because it looks like this fight is listed at 125. And Else is usually a 135-pound fighter. There's an interview floating around out there that he's talking about Aoriqileng coming up to face a bigger man. And he says his power works well at his normal weight class. What's it going to be like up against me? I don't know if the guy just is not that bright of a light bulb and he's the one dropping, or if Quileng Aori is the one going up. Not quite sure, because it was listed at 125 from what I saw. So can't wait to hear what you think about this one, James. Really, really interesting fight in my opinion. What you got, man?
I mean, look, if the I haven't seen this interview, but if the guy's saying that he's coming up, I'm pretty sure he's coming up. I mean, everything points to it except for Tapology, because Cameron Else has fought a lightweight, you know? I mean, I don't think he's going to be able to get down to flyweight. He's never fought a flyweight. I got a hard time seeing it. Yeah, he's never fought a flyweight in his career. He's fought a featherweight almost as many times as he's fought a bantamweight, and he's fought at lightweight. So I highly doubt this is at flyweight. On the other hand, Aoriqileng, he's fought a bantamweight a couple of times, and he obviously fought at flyweight in his first 2 UFC fights, and he lost both. You know what happens when fighters lose 2 in a row? They often move weight class, right? Because they don't want to lose that third. So just from what you said there, I didn't know, but thanks for letting me know, because it seems like he probably is fighting at bantamweight, which makes a bit of a difference, because Cameron Else, he's a big guy, man. And, you know, Aoriqileng, he has fought a bantamweight before, but he is going to be the smaller man here. Now, the one thing I will say is that, you know, you say that he goes blow for blow. I mean, but he's got a great chin, you know. He took some hellacious punishment from what I've seen from quite a few fighters. You know, he got dropped heavy by Jeff Molina, instantly popped back to his feet, looked completely fine. He took some big shots from Cody Durden as well, some big overhands and stuff, and he seemed fine. The thing about Cameron Else, we'll go to Cameron Else now. The thing about Cameron Else, every single one of his wins, they've come in the first round, Clint. Every single time he has ever won in his career, it's been in round 1. Every single time he's got out of round 1, he's lost. He lost a decision, and 2 times he lost inside the distance, right? By punching. One by Kyler Phillips, that was from top position, and also from Damel Whedon, which is an insane fight. If you haven't watched Damel Whedon versus Cameron Else, it's only on for 5 minutes, 40 seconds. So make sure you go watch that. A crazy first round. The thing about Cameron Else, he fights like an absolute lunatic. The thing about Aoriqileng, he kind of fights like an absolute lunatic as well. He'll come forward and, like you said, put his head in the way of the punches and just strike. So this fight is going to be, look, you talk about fireball and popcorn. This is going to be 2 fireballs smashing into each other. And I think someone's going to turn into popcorn, because someone's going down in this fight, right? And the under is a decent price at the moment. I mean, I'm not going to say too much more about that, because I want to get a decent amount of money down on that. But look, I'm going to prick Aoriqileng, because he's shown me he can go a hard 15 minutes. He's shown me that he doesn't fade. But I do think we'll see some improvements from Cameron Else here. I saw some improvements in his Kyler Phillips fight. He fought way more reserved. He showed good footwork in that fight. And we haven't seen that in any of his other fights, because he just goes Hail Mary most of the time, straight in the middle, and creates a scramble, creates a car crash, creates a fire crash, and gets the knockout or the submission usually, right? Or gets finished himself. So I do think we may see a little bit different style with Cameron Else, especially training. You know, he's training there with Donald Cerrone as well, good friends with him. A few other people he's training at Syndicate, but he does go down to the Cowboy Ranch as well. So I do think we're going to see a little bit of a different style here, which is a little bit worrying. because I will be playing the under. But in general, I'm thinking Aoriqileng probably stops him in the second round, continuing that streak of anytime else gets out the first round, he loses.
I hear you there, man, and I like that call on the under. Had not started looking at the totals just yet, but I don't mind that look whatsoever because this one really should be a car crash. You know, Aoriqileng Aori challenging a kid with power like this, using his forehead to block those punches. That could end poorly. You know, he's a round one monster. He might be able to get the finish early, and then if he doesn't, Aoriqileng Aori is the much more well-rounded fighter, higher level of experience. You can see him taking over and getting the finish deeper in the fight. Honestly, man, I'm probably going to sprinkle the sub prop for Cameron Else just because we know Aori's had some difficulty with the submissions. He's a black belt, smaller man coming up a weight class. I want to see that number. I want to see what that sub number looks like. That might be a little sprinkle for me, but I think violence is probably a good move here.
I rate Cameron Else on the ground, you know, like a lot of people will say he's not UFC level, you know, he shouldn't be here. You know, I mean, if you look at his wins, he's fought fighters that are like 0-0, 1-1 and stuff like that. I actually rate his jiu-jitsu in general, just as a pure jiu-jitsu. I think he's got good jiu-jitsu. You know, you won't hear that much this week. And he is English, so I'm always biased to my English brothers, you know, but at the end of the day, I think he's got good jiu-jitsu. So, man, that's not a bad look there, you know. If he is going to win, probably going to be by finish, probably going to be early. Could be by submission. Lang's never been KO'd. Good luck, bro.
See, and that's the club and sub. I like to look for the club and sub angle because everyone goes, oh, look at this kid. Look how hard he is. It's like, well, Aori's a guy that doesn't just go out on that first punch. So maybe we get the club dive on the neck. I don't know. I'll look at the props a little later in the week. I think Else has a sneaky chance to pull off the upset here, but that's just because it's a car crash, you know. I don't know if I'm going to have much investment from a money line side of things on this one, but I'll pick the dog. For the record, I'll pick the dog. No bet yet, though. All right, everybody. Hey, real quick, we got to take a break. I want to talk with one of our sponsors real quick and my favorite commercial starring yours truly. What's going on, sports gamblers? I don't need to tell you that sometimes when you're betting on sports, making a good bet takes giant balls. But every once in a while, there's a downside to having giant cojones. That's right. Anytime you're exercising, anytime you're working out, sometimes it gets a little uncomfortable. There's some extra chafing. One of them decides to stick to your leg, and that can be a problem. Sometimes you need a day off after a tough run on the treadmill because your legs are raw from rubbing together because of your gigantic balls. Well, let me tell you, Stageman Underwear has you covered. Stageman Underwear was designed with your giant Golden Globes specifically in mind. This patented design comes with a special pouch exactly for your dangler and balloons so that they do not chafe while you're on the treadmill, so they do not get too moist on a hot and humid desert day. I promise you, as somebody who has personally tested these exact Stageman underwear, that once you put these things on and you have a go on the workout, you wrestle on the mat if you're into jiu-jitsu, you will never go back to another pair of regular underwear ever. The difference made by Stageman, the comfort level that I enjoyed, is something nothing short of magical.
Ball security is important in football and basketball. Why should it be any different for you? Take care of that treasure trunk and that care package and give it the respect it deserves.
When you check out, use promo code PUB for a 10% discount and give your balls the best pair of underwear, the most level of comfort they have ever enjoyed. Thank you, Stageman, for keeping my balls safe. All right, everybody. Next fight up, we've got Tyson Pedro taking on my guy, Ike Villanueva. And James, I don't know what it is, man. Every single time we get like a new crop of UFC fighters, there's always one or two just mid-tier guys that I fall in love with. I don't know why. I, for the life of me, cannot figure out why I do this. But Ike Villanueva is my boy. Like, I just want to see him go in there and win. And it's so difficult because he's too small at 205. He's a little old. He's a little long in the tooth, but damn, does he put on some entertaining fights. He goes in there. He's got some sharp boxing, decent power, fast hands, but he's just not built for this level, man, especially at 205. Like maybe at 185, he'd have more success. I don't know, but I think he's a little late in the game. 18-3, but he's welcoming back Tyson Pedro, a guy who I legitimately thought retired. We haven't seen this man since 2018 when he got knocked out by Shogun, and that's a red flag right there. Like if you're getting KO'd by Shogun, granted it was 2018, but I mean even in 2018, like that's still not the best look. He was on a 4-0 undefeated run in the UFC, got to the UFC at 4-0, like really young, growing up in front of us type of fighter. But then he ran into some trouble. He stopped Paul Craig, Khalil Roundtree, and Zafarov. I mean, 2 out of 3 of those names are looking pretty good on his resume at this point, man. He's a big, strong, physical guy, got good underhooks. He's really powerful with his body lock. He can just rip people to the floor. I mean, he bullied Paul Craig around the cage when they fought, man. Big, powerful clinch knees, throws everything with killer intent. He just mauls people. He's going to have a 6-inch reach advantage here in this spot. That's significant, man. And honestly, I think he should win this fight on physicality alone. Like, I just think he's going to be the bigger, stronger man. And unless he's broken, like, I know long layoffs are a red flag, but unless he's just not even close to the same man, I have a hard time seeing how Ike catches this guy. He's a minus 550 favorite is Tyson Pedro. The comeback on Villanueva is plus 425. And I hate to say it, but I really think my guy Ike is going to be getting his walking papers after this one.
Yeah, I agree. I think Tyson Pedro is probably going to roll here. First of all, I do want to say that I think me and a lot of other people in the chat are going to have to be buying some new underwear now. So, yeah, I mean, I'm going to do that right after this.
I'm not even kidding, man. The commercial. It's funny. When we signed the deal with Stage Man, he was like, look, if you want to do the deal, I'm going to send you a pair of underwear. It's like, I don't want you to sign up until you've tried them. Don't try to like sell my product without, using it. And I was like, I mean, I like money, but okay, like I'll give it a shot. So they come in the mail. I pull the things up, and I was at first very skeptical, but immediately the level of comfort is like it's a different level. They've got like, not to get too detailed, but like the spandex is tight in the right places, and then when you're running, you're very much protected. Like I'm trying to get rid of my dad bod, man. Very actively working to try to lose some poundage right now. And the chafing thing was a real deal for me because I got some thunder thighs on me right now. And you're completely protected from that with those underwear. So not even joking. Like try them. Give them a shot.
Done, bro. Done. You've sold me. You sold me twice now. So I might get 2 pairs. But yeah, man. But back to the fight. I kind of agree with you, bro. I think Tyson Pedro's going to roll here. Look, he's been off for such a long time. Who knows how he's going to look, right? He looks decent from what I can see. Social media, interviews, stuff like that. I haven't gone too deep into it, but couldn't find any extreme red flags. And the thing with that, I know you're more of like a red flag narrative guy than me, right? I really stay away from a lot of the narratives almost completely, right? Drakkar Klose had one of the worst narratives of all time last week, right? What was he saying? He still got bad injuries from that push. He was thinking he had to retire from the push. He was off for a long time as well. He was saying some other things I can't remember. Everyone was saying it, right? This is terrible narrative. He goes out there and just steamrolls Brandon Jenkins. It looked like he was literally fighting his son or something
I've never seen anything like it, man. After how bad he looked on the scales, I was like, exactly. The narrative, the issues was still dealing with the concussion and the bad weigh-in. I was like, I have to buy in now. I was like, that's 3 strikes, bro. Like I could avoid it.
Did you play Brandon Jenkins?
You got me.
Did you play Brandon Jenkins?
I did. I mean, the KO was like 14-1, and he was a plus 500 underdog. That I was like, man, if he just times 1 flying knee, this thing could be over. But
yeah, I didn't know that you played him, and I didn't mention it for that reason. But, I'm just talking about narrative, right? Narrative is like,
sure.
He had the worst narrative of all time last week, with the weight cut as well. And then he comes out and looks like that. So for that reason, I really stay away from it. I couldn't find any narrative thing on Tyson Pedro, really. Apparently, he was only meant to be off for like 9 months. And then he got another injury. And then he had a fight that was cancelled about 2 years ago. But anyway, if Tyson Pedro comes back and looks like how he looked against anybody, even the fights that he lost, he almost stopped OSP before he got beat. He almost stopped Shogun Rua before he got beat. I mean, any times he's lost, he's almost won before anyway. He was that close to winning. So I find it very hard to see a world in which he doesn't badly hurt Ike Villanueva early in this first round, right? But at the end of the day, the guy's like, what price is he at the moment, Clint? He's a big favorite. Minus 550, right? There's no way I'm playing a minus 550 money line. It makes no sense. His inside the distance is like minus 250, which is absolutely crazy to see. I'm not even saying it's going to be incorrect, right? I'm just saying that we never see it inside the distance at minus 250. We never see it, right? We hardly ever see a prop bet, like a method of victory prop bet at that crazy price. But I kind of understand, as I say, if he comes back anything like he has shown in his previous fights, he should really roll in the first round here. So I'm definitely picking Ike. No, I'm not. I'm definitely picking Tyson Pedro, and I'm picking him via KO in the first round.
My heart skipped a beat. I was like, huh? You got me. No, man, I'm right there with you. This is one of those ones where, like, I hate the numbers. And betting is supposed to be a numbers game. It's hard to get these numbers here on this fight because of all the questions, but like he just should destroy Villanueva in this spot. Absolutely run through the man. We'll see what happens. I'm not laying minus 225 on an inside the distance type of spot, but people that parlay up spots, I think he wins. I'm going to pick Tyson Pedro for sure. I don't know that I'm necessarily going to have a taste of him myself, but I definitely think he gets the job done, and he probably does it in round one. That one we can save a little bit of time on and roll right on ahead. Remember when I talked about falling in love with, potentially mid-tier fighters? Next up, we got Dwight Grant taking on Sergey Khandozhko. Something along those lines. Butchered this poor kid's name. Another prospect that I literally forgot about. Man, I like Dwight Grant. He's a power nerd like myself. Good positive attitude. I love the energy that he brings, and he's got that pow, man. Every once in a while, he can clip somebody with that big ass missile of a right hand he has, and he is all arms. One of the weirdest body types you'll ever see. His torso is like this, and then his arms are like this, like just ridiculous reach on this guy. He can hurt basically everybody, man. The one thing I go back to was the fight that he had with Daniel Rodriguez. He had Daniel Rodriguez hurt. That when that right hand connects, he can put just about anybody down. Tried to follow up on it. Rodriguez was tough enough, savvy enough to go ahead and survive that spot, and then Grant gassed himself trying to get the finish, left himself open, and killed himself, went out on his shield that night. One of the most entertaining one-round fights you'll ever see. Went to a split decision with Trinaldo last fight, but that's a little misleading because he actually had a point deduction in that fight, so it was not as close as you maybe recall it being when you go back and just look at the scores and do the wiki capping. Grant will have a 2-inch reach advantage here, 70% takedown defense, and he's taking on Sergey, 27-6. Like, he's got a ton of experience at this point for being 29 years old. He's 1-1 in the UFC, and I don't know what it is about this card, but you're going to hear this a lot. Hasn't fought since 2019. Like, another super long layoff for this kid. He's training at Extreme Couture, working out at the UFC PI there. He's got these big, like, leaping in leg kicks that he likes, this karate-style blitz attacks. He's always got his hands low, and he fires from the hip. He kind of does this one pot shot at a time type of thing. And honestly, James, that's exactly the kind of opponent that someone like Grant is going to be able to fight competitively with. Because if you're going to go blow for blow and just try to like use your timing and your reach, Grant's going to be able to, land a shot or two. Will he be able to clip and put down a guy like Sergey? I'm not necessarily convinced. I think I want to stay completely away from this fight because Dwight Grant, he's got the experience. He's been fighting at the UFC level, so he's been at least getting his chops over here. But at the same time, Sergey's definitely the fighter with from what I've seen, he looks like he's the fighter that's going to have the higher ceiling and maybe more longevity in the sport and in the UFC. But I got a hard time betting him after this kind of a long layoff. It's a pick'em price tag, -120 on Sergey, even money on Dwight Grant. I'm biased as a fan. I want to say Dwight Grant. I know that's the wrong answer. I think this is a very close fight, and I think it's going to play out that way, man. How do you see this fight going?
Yeah, again, that's a good breakdown, bro. I think it's going to be a close fight. Dwight Grant loves a split decision. It seems to always fight to split decisions. It's funny, right? We get them fighters every now and then that they just go to splits all the time. Like Masvidal was doing it early in his career. Masvidal's gone to 5 or 6 splits. There's quite a few fighters who just fight close for whatever reason. It doesn't really matter who they're fighting. They could be fighting someone who's ranked 15 and they'll fight close. They could be fighting someone who's ranked 50 and they'll fight to a split decision with both of them, Dwight Grant has that style. He obviously has power. But man, when I was watching this fight, right, when I was doing my study for this fight, I was looking at this guy because I don't really know who he is. Sergey Khandozhko, right? I haven't really heard of him before. So I watched his tape and I was like, hey, this guy ain't good, man. This guy's not a really good fighter. He could be a bit of a fraud, 27-6. I don't really rate him too much. He's got decent power, but I don't rate him, And I was like, oh, you know what? This could be a good spot for Dwight Grant here. Dwight Grant's the underdog. I'm like, you know what? I think I might be on Dwight. Then I watched Dwight's tape and I'm like, oh, he's not really that good either, They're kind of it's kind of a mirror matchup in a way. One thing I would like to see Dwight Grant do a lot more is pressure, because if he did, I think he could have this fight in the bag. He just doesn't fight that way, man. He often fights on his back foot, which is not a type of fighter I want to back against Sergey Khandozhko, to be honest. I think it's going to be a close fight. If nobody gets knocked out, I think it's going to be a close split decision type fight. So, yeah, I'm staying off it, just like you are, and I advise all the viewers to do that also.
Yeah, man. It's funny. I'm laughing because I did almost literally the exact same thing. I started looking at Sergey and went, I can back my boy Grant here. And then I ran back the tape and was like, ooh, maybe never mind. So I'm going to pick Grant for the sake of, loyalty and fandom. I'm going to go ahead and pick Grant to get the win here in this spot. But damn, I'm not going anywhere near this one from a betting perspective. It could easily go either way. It could go to a split. Both these guys can and have been caught, so it could be a knockout. I want nothing to do with this one, man. I'm off it. We got a couple people in the chat commenting that Sergey is out for the fight. Hey, I haven't seen anything on this one. We've already lost a couple fights this card, unfortunately, so it would not shock me. But I haven't seen personally anything, so I can't confirm. We'll roll along assuming we got a breakdown in there, because if that fight's off, we could have saved half the show. We've lost so many fights already. Next fight up, Jourdain Wright taking on Marc-Andre Barriault. Oh, baby, what happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object, Lucrative? We have got my guy, Jourdain Wright, my favorite glass cannon of all time, taking on Marc-Andre Barriault, who up until his last fight was supposedly this steel curtain, this man that was just unbreakable. You could not get in on this man, only ever lost by decision. Barriault's coming off his first ever KO loss. He's 13-5, and I've always said, every time we break down a Marc-Andre fight, if you've seen one Marc-Andre fight, you have seen all Marc-Andre fights. This guy does not change what he does. And then if you have seen Jourdain Wright fight, it's basically only ever going to be one round. He's one of these guys that you can do your tape study extremely quickly, because he goes in and either murders somebody or he gets flatlined. Now, the way I think about Jourdain Wright is that he is big for the division. He has UFC caliber offense, but he has NFC level durability. This guy just, from anybody that's packing heat, he can't take a shot. He's got big kicks. He goes body and head with those. Very fast, very accurate hands. He's strong in the Muay Thai clinch, and he fires off some huge knees, man. His KO losses, though, are to Buckley, Bruno Silva, and Fluffy. 3 guys all that have some serious pop in their punches, fast hands, and hit hard. So even though he seems a little chinny, it's not bums that he's getting knocked out by. He's going to have a 3-inch reach advantage here in this spot. And, man, I don't know what to do with Marc-Andre at this point. I personally have never been high on him. I think he's barely scraping the bottom of the barrel as far as being UFC caliber. If you're not going to make it in the organization, he'll beat you and he'll keep his roster spot. But I think he's close to being on his way out of the UFC, if I'm being completely honest. I'm not overly impressed with him. He doesn't tend to have power. He really relies on kind of draining the clock away, grinds you up against the cage. He's got serviceable boxing, but he doesn't want to play at range. I don't know that he's going to be able to physically control a guy like Jourdain Wright. And if he can't control Jourdain Wright, I think Jourdain Wright is the much slicker striker. The chin of Jourdain Wright is an absolute liability. Don't get me wrong. Like, he could get clipped by a stiff breeze and go down. But I think he's by far the more offensive, better striker. I believe it or not, I think Jourdain Wright can pull off the upset here, man.
Look, he definitely can. He can beat anyone. Jourdain Wright can beat any man in the world in the first 30 seconds. If there was a 30-second fight, right? If round 1 was only 30 seconds, Jourdain Wright would be minus 500 against everyone not named Francis Ngannou. Francis Ngannou would be a pick'em. You know what I'm saying? Jourdain Wright comes out on a mad one. Jourdain Wright does spinning kicks. He damn near backflips in the cage, he puts Michael Pereira to shame at times, He's doing cartwheels, like whatever. He's the Beverly Hills Ninja, and he comes out like a ninja. And he's doing it at middleweight. So a lot of the fighters he fights, they're not used to this because fighters in the middleweight division are not really meant to be able to do cartwheels and spinning back kicks and flying knees and, all of the stuff he does. So he comes out like a bat out of hell. And what did we just see happen to Marc-Andre Barriault in his last fight? He got clocked, like a bat out of hell. Chidi and what's it? How do you say it? Wow, that's good, bro. You've been practicing that one, eh?
Yeah.
Chidi Njokuani. Yeah. He clocked him in 16 seconds. And as we know in MMA or in boxing, but combat sports in general, KOs that happen in the first round, they're a lot less meaningful than KOs in the second or third round. And KOs that happen under 1-2 minutes are even less meaningful than that, right? Because in the first round, you're still getting your opponent's range. You haven't took a shot yet, so you're not used to that punch feeling. For some reason, whatever it is, they're my theories why it happens, but for some reason, it's a fact that early knockouts happen a lot more often than any other knockouts, right? So I'm not going to take too much away from Marc-Andre from getting clocked that early. 16 seconds into the fight, didn't have a chance to wake up. But I will say that Jourdain Wright is going to try and do the exact same thing here. So that's something you have to consider, right? But if he doesn't get that early knockout, Jourdain Wright, is he going to win the fight? I don't know, man. Has he ever done it before? I mean, the guy's never won a fight outside of round 1, except for one time, right? And he won that fight less than 1 minute into round 2. So he's kind of a round 1 or bust merchant. He does look gassed, in his fights. I mean, he looked gassed against Joaquin Buckley. He got hurt at the end of that first round. Against Bruno Silva, obviously, he just got clocked straight away. I don't know, man. Like, it's hard for me to see this guy putting on a solid 15 minutes when I haven't even seen him put on a solid 6 minutes, So yeah, I do think Marc is probably going to be able to take the punishment and, get a second or third round stoppage. But I wouldn't be surprised if Jourdain Wright puts him out here early because he's done it to many fighters. And he can do it here, I don't have too much to say other than that. But I am going to go with Marc-Andre because he's just shown me a lot more in the way of 15-minute performances, an all-round MMA game. And he has shown me a really good chin despite what happened in his last fight.
That is absolutely fair. Honestly, man, I think the best angle for this one is if you've got live betting available. This could be a live bet spot, because if Marc-Andre survives that first rush, that first round, you might get a much better number on him. Because if he gets to the bell after round one, Wright is just not a guy that you expect to see a fight continue. So unless he comes out and does something he's never done before, and Wright has like a slow, methodical pace and, tries to use his size and strength as advantage, again, just something we've never seen before, you should expect him to come out hard. And if he comes out hard and doesn't get Barriault out of there, if Marc-Andre looks like his good old-fashioned, steel chin self, jump in live. That'll be your opportunity to get in there and go ahead and get on the right side at a much better number. I have not made a bet on this fight. And at this point, I'm picking Jourdain Wright. I'm not really planning on getting overly invested. If the inside the distance prop is nutso, maybe I'll take a shot at him inside the distance. But this is another one where it's so binary for me, man. It's Jourdain Wright round one, or it's Marc-Andre 3-year decision. Like those are the only two outcomes I can possibly see in my brain. I can't comprehend much other than those two things happening. Now, granted, Jourdain Wright is chinny enough that Marc-Andre might be able to get him out of there in round 2. But, it's just such a wild fight. The variance on this one is through the roof, so I don't know that I want to have much money tied to it. And then Eric jumping in.
Yeah, I was just going to shout out Eric, and shout out to Eric as well. Eric's a good follow on Twitter. But I was just going to shout out that comment, man. Listen, that's a look. He's saying, I don't know if it's a smart bet. It's a fairly smart bet. 10% chance for something that happened in Mark's last fight. Go for it, man. That's a good bet, bro. I'll be on that. I'll be on that.
And that's, what? I love it. And I'm with Eric. Like, even if you're betting Marc-Andre, take a sprinkle 10-1 on Wright round one. Like, that's a perfect hedge, man. That's a hedge spot. Beautiful. Eric, thank you very much for pointing that out for us all. I'm sure we'll be riding on that at some point. All right. Hey, everybody, now we've talked about some lower level fights. We've talked about some wild fights. This fight, this is a banger, and this one should be good. Like, this isn't a couple guys scrapping for their job. This isn't a couple guys with their backs against the wall. These are two fan favorites who are going to be here for a long time that are very well matched up. Charles Jourdain versus Lando Vannata. I mean, first off, let's shout out Jourdain. I mean, basically single-handedly repping Team Canada right now as far as their hopes and dreams of having, somebody at the upper echelon of their division. He's kind of the front runner for Team Canada at the moment. I love this kid. He steers straight into the violence. I don't know if it's necessarily the smartest thing to do, but it's where he thrives. And he just breaks people with pace over the course of 3 rounds. He gets a little too into the striking. He can be taken down. The grappling can be something that his opponents use to take advantage of him. But he's got an opponent in Lando Vannata that should be more than willing to engage him in a striking affair. Like, they call the man groovy for a reason. He loves to dance around on the feet. Slick head movement, good footwork, constant ins and outs. Like, this is going to be a high-level chess match, man. I can't wait for this fight. And I've got a hard time picking a winner just because of what I was saying. I think they're very well matched up. And it's a fight that I expect to go all 15 minutes because both of them are relatively tough, relatively durable. And I don't know that either of them are going to take advantage of their opponent's weaknesses. Jourdain is minus 130. Lando Vannata is plus 110. It is his second fight down at his new weight class here after, dropping a division. So I kind of expect Lando Vannata to maybe have a size and strength advantage. Somewhere in the back of my brain, I think maybe he could go to the grappling if he really wanted to. I don't know that he will, but he can. Lando Vannata will have a 2-inch reach advantage here in this spot. And I don't usually do the number crunching thing, but this is one I do want to point out. That Charles Jourdain has a 49% striking accuracy with a 60% striking defense. Lando Vannata has a 44% striking accuracy with a 54% striking defense. So if you want to go just purely by the numbers, Charles Jourdain at minus 130 kind of makes sense. He's slightly more accurate. He's slightly more defensive. He's younger. I think that kind of makes sense. I'll pick Charles Jourdain, but again, this is one where it's so close. Like, I don't know that I need to flip a coin here, man. What about you?
Yeah, it is a close fight, man. It's definitely a close fight. It could go either way. You know, there's solid... the matchup benefits either fighter in different ways. You know, I do think Lando Vannata can go to the wrestling, like you said. For some of the fight, it will be kind of like a chess match, like you said, but it's going to be a chess match with a bit of battleships sprinkled in, right? Because I think they're going to clash heavily in the pocket, and there's going to be some haymakers being swung, and there won't be no chess being played when they're right in the middle of the octagon, right? I think we can see multiple knockdowns in this fight. I honestly think it's going to be a back and forth war. You know, I think both fighters are going to have clear, big moments in the fight. But I also think it's going to go to decision, you know? So it's kind of hard because, like, the decision is minus 140 or something, right? So I looked at it, maybe I should play the decision. But I just think it's going to be a crazy slugfest back and forth war. So I don't really want to play the decision in them type of fight. So I don't think I'm going to be on decision. I might be. I'm going to maybe look at it a little bit more. Maybe look at how much Vannata does really utilize the wrestling. Look, he goes for a takedown in most of his fights. He even got a takedown on Marc-Andre, you know? I remember that was a really good takedown. That was that body lock, and he slammed him down against the run of play in the wrestling, at least in that fight. So, yeah, I'm gonna look at tape a little bit more with this fight. I'm gonna lean with Lando Vannata, especially as he's at dog money right now. He's the underdog. I think Lando Vannata can pull it out of the bag, but at the end of the day, the guy's so open on the feet, right? He is open, man. Like, I know he looks good, you know, like he does all of this sort of stuff. Like, he half looks like he's in a matrix sometimes. Sometimes he'll move out of the way of a strike by like that much, and then he'll come back with a slick counter. You're like, damn, this guy's serious, you know, like a Fiziev type.
Yeah.
And then sometimes he'll just stand in a pocket with no defense like Miguel Baeza and just get hit with a heavy elbow and get dropped by Bobby Green or something. So he's a bit weird in the way he fights. He walks into the variance on the feet, but he's also sometimes very calculated. He's a dodgy fighter, man. The guy's got like 2 draws on his record. Like, he's got like a wheel kick knockout, and then he's got other grinding decision wins. Like, he's a strange fighter in general. You never really know how he's going to approach it. I do think the weight class may benefit him. He looked good in his in the new weight class last time out. So I'm going to lean Lando Vannata a little bit. But I don't know whether I'm going to play him or what way I'm going to play it. And another little thing I do want to mention is that in round 3, Charles Jourdain is a motherfucker, right? Round 3 Jourdain is like a mythical creature in MMA. You know, we all have those mythical creatures, right? And karate stance Connor, you know, new chin Prachnio, whatever. Round 3 Jourdain is definitely one of them. So, look, if it's 1-1 going into round 3, I know who I want my money on. So, I don't know. It just seems like every round 3 seems like... I know he got stopped in round 3 against the Rosa, but he's a good round 3 fighter. So, yeah, man, I think it's going to be a great fight. I think it's probably good potential for fight of the night. And I don't know how I'm going to play it yet, but they're my thoughts anyway.
I agree with you, man. I agree with you. And it's funny, though, because I was going to mention round 3 Jourdain, like, especially the fight he had last time out was the one that really just sealed the deal for me. Like, Spartan kicking and screaming at his opponent in the face. Like, you want to bet goes to decision on this fight? Good fucking luck, because that's the move I wanted to make. I was like, I want the over 2.5, and then I watched that fight and was like, oh my god, like, can you imagine having minus 185 over 2.5, and then Charles is pulling that shit in the 3rd round? Like, you're gonna be biting your fingers, sweating out that last 2 minutes in that 3rd round, because he's just a monster.
He did it in the Rojo fight as well, man. He poured it on heavy in that fight. You know, his corner was like, listen, it might be 1-1. You got to stop this guy. He's like, all right. I think Jourdain said, he was like, okay, I hear you. I'm going to stop him in this round. You know, I remember that because I think I tweeted it out. Maybe my mind's going crazy, but I'm pretty sure that happened. There was like an exchange in the end of round 2. And he's like, yeah, all right. I'm going to stop him in this round. This is it. This is the one. And then he goes out there and stops him with like 10 seconds left.
Does it?
And he did it in the Kulabau fight, man. The Kulabau fight, he ends up almost stopping him in that round. I think he might have dropped him. He got him in that triangle, elbowing him. I mean, the guy in round 3 is a lunatic. You know, one of the reasons he got stopped in round 3 against the Rosa was because he was going crazy in round 3. He's a motherfucker.
Lucrative, do we bet the draw here? Is this the fight that we take the 50-1 on the draw?
I mean, look, Lando Vannata has been in a few draws. Charles Jourdain has been in a draw. He might go crazy in the 3rd round. I think either fighter can get dropped. Look, I'm never going to sit here and like preach a draw, right? That's not what we do. But if you're speaking to my degenerate side, if you're talking about my fun bankroll, I mean, why not? You know, as you like to say, bro, you know already what I'm going to say. Maybe.
Just a sprinkle. I think we might have found a fun degenerate sprinkle for this one, man. The draw. I'm thinking over 2.5. I'm thinking draw, because you can bet your ass that if Charles Jourdain is down 2 rounds going into the 3rd, he's going to make that bad boy a 10-8 or he's going to finish it. So I don't mind that one here. This week might be the one. I haven't played a draw bet, and shit, it's got to be like I've done round 3s. I've done point deductions. I haven't bet a draw in like 9 months or something, man. This one might be the one that gets me. All right. I can't wait, man. That's fight of the night. That's going to be a good one. All right. Next up, we got Mudaerji taking on Manel Kape. And God, I don't know what to do with Manel, man. This guy, he comes over to the UFC, and I'm pounding the drum. I'm like, he belongs here. He belongs in the deep end. They put him up against Pantoja because they know, like, he's going to be a force. He drops those first couple fights, and then I'm like, you know what? Maybe he's just not as built. And then I go the other side, and then he wins the 2 fights that I bet against him for. So I'm batting like 0 for 0 right now on Manel Kape because I zigged when I should have zagged on this guy. He's good, man. He is solid, explosive, coming off of 2 round 1 wins. Showed that he definitely deserves to be up towards the top of the division. Not necessarily convinced he's championship caliber, but he's going to be a top 10er. He's going to be a top 5er type of guy. Very athletic, very fast. Talked about bringing his wrestling shoes in for this one. I think he wants to remind people that he's got that wrestling in the back pocket here for this fight. And he's taking on Mudaerji, 15-4. Man, I love this kid. He looks like a big-time future prospect. The only problem for me, Lucrative, is this is a massive step up in competition. And I mean a big jump up in competition from what he has been fighting so far in his UFC run. He's got long, snappy kicks. Kid is very rangy. He's got a deadly switch kick to the head, and he's very elusive. He's got a lightning-quick jab, good head movement, good footwork, stays on the outside. He's training over at American Top Team with Pantoja, the guy who's got some experience here against this particular opponent. You love to see that. But I can't get out the smoke ahead. Hey, that sentence didn't work at all. I can't get the smoke fight out of my head. He made his debut in 2018. Now, granted, it was his debut. He was a much younger fighter at that point, much less polished. But he fought Luis Smolka, and he just got bullied on the floor, man. And if Kape is coming out here looking to wrestle, I think that can be a big difference maker in this fight. So Sue's going to have a 4-inch reach advantage, but as you know, that reach advantage doesn't matter for shit if you're on your back. Manel Kape currently minus 170. The comeback on Mudaerji plus 150. As much as I think Mudaerji is the goods, I got a hard time lining up to bet him here in this fight. What about you, James?
Yeah, this is a good fight, man. I think it's going to be a really good fight, and I'm really interested to see how it plays out. The thing about Kape, right, I think he's got all the tools. He's a good fighter. The thing about him is just he kind of has bad fight IQ in terms of he's so low volume. I mean, a lot of his losses, I mean, I reckon he could have won that Pantoja fight. I honestly think that is a winnable fight for him because Pantoja didn't grapple. He tried to grapple like once. I mean, he lost on the feet against Pantoja, and he doesn't have to lose a kickboxing match against Pantoja, you know? He shouldn't really be losing a kickboxing match against Pantoja. I'm going to say that right now, right?
I bet him that fight because I thought the exact same thing.
It's so funny because I bet on Pantoja because I thought Pantoja would wrestle him, right? I thought he would wrestle him. He didn't wrestle him, and he still ends up winning. The whole fight, I'm like, what are you doing, Pantoja, you know? And I mean, he still was able to lose that fight, Cap, and that's because he just didn't throw enough. You know, it was just low volume. That was a winnable fight for him if he threw more volume, and he didn't do that. And then his fight against Nicolau, he was still kind of low volume. Now that was a more closer fight. He definitely did a lot better in that fight. You know, he had him on skates the whole of round 2. But Nicolau had a great first round, got him down, and had a solid third round as well. And then Kape come back right at the end with a flying knee to the body and all of that. But I don't really trust Kape to do what he should do, right? In the Pantoja fight, he needed to throw more. In the third round of the Nicolau fight, he needed to throw more early. When he started throwing more, he won the last half of the round. And in this fight, in my opinion, he should grapple. I don't think he's going to grapple, man. Even in the Ode Osborne fight, right? The Ode Osborne fight, it's back and forth. It's even. It's minus 110 until 5 seconds left in the first round, and then he gets a flying knee. Now, look, shout out to him. He lined up a flying knee. That's high-level stuff. And you could tell he timed it. He switched stance right before he threw it. I mean, it wasn't a lucky random flying knee. You know, flying knees rarely are, but
I still think it was an early stoppage. But props for landing it.
I can't even remember the stoppage. It very well could have been an early stoppage. But, I mean, to land that knee, high-level striking, right? But it was minus 110 on the feet before that, and it didn't have to be, in my opinion. In my opinion, he's a level above Ode on the feet. So, I say that to say this. Manel Kape cannot be trusted with my money in certain matchups, and I'm not going to be playing him in this fight unless I play him by a prop. You know, there may be a prop way I play him, but other than that, I don't think I'm going to be playing him. I do expect him to get the win, but Mudaerji has solid length. He has really good feints. I can easily see this fight being a 15-minute counter-striking fest where no fighter really wants to strike. Mudaerji's outlanding him with the length, with the leg kicks, with the body kicks. But Manel Kape has landed some heavy shots and he's dropped Mudaerji to one knee a couple of times, but lost the rest of the round. It's easy for me to see a world in where this is a close 15-minute fight. And depending on what you like more, you're going to give it to that fighter. Exactly how the Nicolau versus Kape fight with. But I'm going to lean with Kape because, in my opinion, he's got the finishing upside. In my opinion, he's got the better striking. And also, I do believe that the step up in competition is such a big thing for Mudaerji. He might not be ready for it. So I'm leaning Kape because of that, but I'm not going to be betting the money line as it is.
Okay. I love the breakdown, man. Thank you very much for going in deep on that one. This is a spot where I kind of tend to agree with you on a lot of what you said. I just really, really struggle with backing Manel Kape at this price tag because a lot of what you said, I have concerns with the fight IQ. I don't doubt the athleticism. I don't doubt the power. I don't doubt the mean streak. I doubt that he reminds me a lot of Bobby Green. Like you rewind 4 years, Bobby Green, where he just goes out there and fights. Like that's Kape to me. He doesn't play the game. He doesn't score for MMA. Like he just fights. And I think he's going to be in a lot of fights that he lets slip away from him because of that. So I could see Sue coming in here and passing this test. I could see him being enough to squeeze by a fight like this if Kape doesn't play his cards right. I could also see Kape flatlining this kid or ground and pounding him because he can just dominate on the mat. Like I absolutely can see that taking place. But Sue is lightning fast, man. The one thing I really love about Mudaerji is his jab. His jab is so fast that I could see him dissuading some of the wrestling offense just by popping that thing out in the face of Kape. And with Kape being low volume, I could see him squeezing away a decision win here in this kind of a spot as well. So I'm a little tempted here on the dog. I think the over is in play. I think this one probably goes the distance. So I guess I'm going to say dog. I'll say Sue gets the win. Again, I don't know that I'm going to bet it. Sue by decision might be something that I sprinkle on. That split decision prop is calling my name again here because I do think it'll be close. But I expect this one to be very hairy.
Yeah, same. I mean, I think it's similar to the Pantoja fight. Kape can make it, quote-unquote, fairly easy by putting on his singlet and going out and wrestling. I'm fully expecting Kape to exactly what MMA Wheelchair said in the comments, right? I expect Kape to go out there, and just kickbox with him for 15 minutes and just act like he won 30-27. Like, he should just go to the wrestling and he's probably going to kickbox for 15 minutes and everyone's going to be screaming at their TV. But at the end of the day, he might wrestle and he might win. So who the fuck knows? I'm staying away personally. Good luck if you bet it.
I like it. I like it, man. I agree. All right. Real quick, want to give a shout out here. Thank you so much for the donation. Go Flamingo, saying, with prep for Khabib and how hittable Oliveira is, Justin Gaethje is sneaky good underdog. Thoughts, boys? So just real quick, off the top of the head, man, what do you think? Does Justin Gaethje have what it takes to take out Charlie O?
I mean, of course, like, he hits hard. You know, he's probably one of the hardest hitters in the division. Charlie Olive seems to get dropped in every one of his fights these days. Well, I guess his last 2 fights. Justin Gaethje inside the distance is probably better, honestly. It's funny because I think if the fight goes longer, I just see at some point Olive's getting him to the ground and getting a submission. So I'm picking Olive's. I think he's going to submit him. But I need to do the tape, man. At the end of the day, I can't speak with too much conviction if I haven't researched the fight. But I do think Olive's probably going to get the submission. He's on such a roll these days.
I completely agree with you, man. Charles Oliveira was a guy that for the longest time I just kept slandering. I just kept talking about how he's a quitter. He gives up. He folds. You know, I just didn't believe in the kid. And he's proven that he has gotten over that hump. He was a young fighter who made some mistakes. He took his lunch pail home a couple times. He doesn't do that shit anymore. So now that he has kind of gotten past that and that's not the game plan anymore, he's legitimized himself as the champion in my eyes, man. I really think that he is solid here in this spot. And Justin Gaethje can finish any man on the planet the way he fights. So I don't ever mind anybody backing Justin Gaethje, personally. But I do think I'm going to pick Charlie O to just be the future of the division. I don't think we're taking a step back at this point. I think the young guns are coming. All right, we'll save that for another day. We both got to do our tape study. So thank you very much for the donation and the question. I'm sure we will be spending a lot more time talking about that fight here in the very near future. Next fight on the slate, believe it or not, folks, with all the cancellations, we've only got 3 left to talk about. So we're going to be wrapping up pretty quick here. Maycee, the future Barber, taking on Montana De La Rosa in a spot where I don't know what the market's going to do. I am very confused as to other people's perceptions of these fights here, James. Montana De La Rosa is a fighter who I'm a huge fan of. I love the workhorse grappling game that she brings, but she's 12-6 because she's already taken on a lot of the big names that this division has to offer. Her losses are to Vivi Araujo, Andrea KGB Lee, Cynthia Calvillo before she dropped off a cliff, and then she got tapped by Mackenzie Thurn. I mean, like, she's fought a high caliber of competition already, and every time she comes out, she's just getting better and better and better. Like, she's headed the right direction. High pace, strong wrestling, took almost a year off before this fight, and she's been training with my power couple, Rocky and Tisha Torres. So I'm expecting big improvements from her here in this spot. She's a little low volume on the feet, and her hands are slow. Like, the striking is a bit of a liability with Montana De La Rosa. But she's got a strong body kick, and her whole game centers around that grappling, man. She has got nasty top position. The top pressure that she brings is something you don't want to be under her. She's methodical the way that she climbs her opponents when she gets them on the mat. And she loves her TKO, man. She goes for broke when she's on top of you. She got Lipsky busted up with a big old elbow in round 1 of their last fight and then got her out of there in the second round. Like, she is mean when she gets on the ground. Maycee Barber, 9-2. That last win was a little questionable. one of the hotly debated scorecards recently, getting that win she had. But the one thing Maycee Barber has going for her is she is an athlete, man. This woman is a tank, very strong, very explosive. She's working with Uriah Faber at this point. But up until now, because we haven't seen her yet, so I don't want to say anything about her now, but, like, where are the improvements? I keep expecting Maycee Barber to turn the corner. I keep expecting her to do, things better in the cage, have a well-rounded MMA game. And she just hasn't quite shown that she's evolving to this point. I think a lot of that had to do with ego. I think she was surrounded by some yes men. She was convinced that she was, the next John Jones. I got to wonder if she's been humbled at this point, and if working with Uriah Faber, now maybe we will finally see her turn that corner and show some improvements. But up until this point, she's been a slow starter. She loads up on some big power shots. She will have a striking advantage here against Montana De La Rosa, a speed advantage on the feet against Montana De La Rosa. But the grappling, again, she really relies on brute force. She's not much of a wrestler. She's got 66% takedown defense, averages 1.36 takedowns for 15 minutes at a 33% accuracy. Not bad, but Montana De La Rosa's got a 57% takedown defense rating, so actually a little bit lower, but she averages 2.25 takedowns per 15 with a 31% accuracy. So a little less accurate, a little more attempts from Montana De La Rosa in the grappling. Man, I honestly think this fight comes down to pure power. Like, whoever is the stronger woman, I think will win this fight. And that's something where recently I've been struggling to make these assessments because it's so hard to gauge just by like what we've seen from the past and who we think is strong and who we think is physically weak. I haven't been able to quite pin down who I think is the more physically stronger person, but I got a feeling it might be Maycee Barber, man. Montana De La Rosa is one of my favorite dogs to back, and I love her game plan. But I think she might just get bullied by Barber in there. What do you think about this fight, man?
Yeah, I don't think there'll be too much like bullying over 15 minutes. I do think it can be a close, gritty affair. You know, similar to like Kianzad Landsberg on the weekend. I mean, Kianzad clearly won a fight, right? But Landsberg had her moment. She grinded her up. No one necessarily got bullied. I do think there's going to be similar in this fight. I think Maycee Barber eventually, over the course of 15 minutes, probably going to be able to stuff the takedowns enough to win on the feet. She's aggressive on the feet, but that's really what she does. She just overwhelms you with aggression. She's not like super high level or super technical on the feet, in my opinion. No, she doesn't have too much on the feet. She's just really, really powerful, and she will spam shots. And if she gets you hurt, she's an extremely good finisher, you know, which is obviously very, it goes a long way in women's MMA, right? If you're a really good finisher, as soon as you get your opponent hurt, go crazy. Standing TKOs, you know, we don't see too many women getting dropped by punches, but we see some standing TKOs. So, yeah, man, I do think Maycee probably going to be a little bit bigger, a little bit more physical, like you said. But I think Montana can make it close, man. I'm not going to hate anyone taking a dog shot on Montana. Thing about Montana, she's got no good wins. You know, I mean, who's her best win? Mara Barella. I mean, the girl's like 10-10 or something. You know, I don't really. Obviously, that fight against Bueno Silva, that was a draw, but that's because the point got deducted, so she would have lost that fight if it wasn't for the draw. But it was close, though. She definitely could have won that fight on another day. But at the end of the day, she doesn't have that many good wins. With Maycee Barber, she shows wins over Miranda Maverick. She lost whatever. She shows wins over Maverick, Gillian Robertson, JJ Aldridge. So, you know, she's got some decent wins in there. I think she probably wins a decision, but look, man, I think De La Rosa can actually make this close. And I think it's going to be one of them ones where if you do back De La Rosa, you're probably going to be pissed off because, like, it'll be a close fight. She could have won it. There was a few sequences that needed to go your way, and you would have won the fight. But Maycee just did enough. And I think that's kind of what's going to happen to De La Rosa bettors. And I might even end up being one of them because I just do think it can be a close fight. But, yeah, that's my thoughts on the fight, man.
I hear you, man. I'm very much in the same boat there. I'm tempted on the dog because I do think that Montana De La Rosa has the right style to keep this thing close. And I think that there's going to be a lot of hate on Barber because she's on a 2-fight skid and then robs a fan favorite in Miranda Maverick with that split decision going the wrong way. I think there's going to be a lot of people that are really looking to like get some payback and be on the other side of her here. And not that necessarily influences the line enough or anything like that, but I just think we're going to see a lot of Montana De La Rosa as kind of a public dog around, you know, Twitter and stuff like that this week. I expect this fight to be close. I really don't know that I want to lay minus 200 with Maycee Barber, but I think she wins. I'm going to pick her to win the fight, man. All right, everybody. We are coming down to the end of this bad boy. 2 more fights to talk about. We got to take one more real quick break here to hear from our sponsors, and then we'll wrap up the main and co-main event. Welcome back to the Die Hard MMA podcast, everybody. We got over 250 live viewers right here on the show. I apologize, 249, so not over 250. Now we got 251 live viewers on the show. Everybody do me a favor and smash that thumbs up button. Quick announcement. I'm officially changing my pick from Maycee Barber to Montana De La Rosa. Fuck you, Dirty Reg. Next fight up, we got Clay Guida taking on Claudio Puelles, man. Oh, baby. Lucrative. It is a sign from the MMA gods. I'm doing my stalking on this fight. I'm on Instagram. I'm going through these guys, and I'm looking for any little thing, and there's a picture of my man Clay Guida holding a hammer on his Instagram recently. I'm like, that's it right there. Universe sent me a signal. Clay Guida is winning this fight, man. I actually did bet Clay Guida. I know he's 40 years old, and I know that we have a rule. You don't bet on 40-year-old fighters unless you've got a damn good reason. I actually cashed a ticket on Claudio Puelles' last fight. I talked about how I really like this kid as a prospect. I like his kicking game. I like his grappling. He's got that finishing upside. And whoo, baby, did we need that finishing upside there in that third round, James. He was struggling. He was struggling in that fight. Got taken down, got put on his back. He accepts bottom just way too much for me. And he's got the leg kicks and he's got the body kicks. But what we've seen from him is that if you crowd him with boxing, he has a hard time striking off the back foot. He definitely is the type of fighter who you can abuse getting into boxing range on. And then, as I said, he gives up the takedowns. He does not have great takedown defense, 55% takedown defense. And going up against a guy like Clay, he's just, man, this guy, he's the Energizer caveman, like first generation upright. This man, he just never stops. He never slows down. He never gasses. He's got awkward movement, awkward striking, but he is tough as nails. He's a good soldier. Like, you've got to kill Clay Guida to get him out of that cage. And in that last fight against Santos, I don't know how the hell they let that fight continue. I really thought Clay was just dead in that first round, but they let him dig deep. And he came back and finished the man in round two. Like, I love so much about Clay Guida. It's going to be a sad day when Guida hangs it up, man, because he's a national treasure. Looking at his record, you're like, oh, man, 10 losses by sub. Like, that spells trouble, right? Then you go through and you look at the guys who's tapping him recently, though. Charles Oliveira, Jim Miller, Brian Ortega. Like, it's not bums that are getting those taps on him, man. Like, maybe earlier in his career he had a bit of a problem, but recently, like in the last 10 years, if you're submitting him, you're championship caliber. Or, you know, round one, Jim Miller, who is one of the mythical creatures we were talking about a little bit earlier in the evening. I like Clay Guida here, man. I think that he's going to be able to have success the same that Claudio Puelles' last opponent did. I think he'll be able to stay in his face, constantly pressuring him. He won't be able to get the kicks off because of it. And then I think Clay can just wrestle here. If he just grapples his way to a 15-minute decision victory, I wouldn't be shocked whatsoever. Now, the Achilles heel that, you know, Francis Ngannou knockout submission, he could, you know, Puelles could throw up a triangle. He could get a heel hook or another knee bar. Shit happens. But I just think winning minutes, Clay Guida is the side here in this spot, man. How about you? How do you feel about this one?
I feel similar. Clay Guida is an absolute legend of the game. I love Clay, man. He might be one of my favorite fighters, honestly. The guy, this is going to be his 58th or 59th MMA fight. I mean, he's 40 years old. He's doing it in a fairly light division, you know, lightweight. I mean, shout out to Clay. You know, I really like that guy. He's a legend. Even his whole personality, you know, he loves the fishing and stuff. He's a chilled, relaxed guy. But he fights like a lunatic in the octagon. He's like literally the opposite in personality on how he fights, right? I mean, we all remember his wars with Diego Sanchez, you know, hair swinging all over the place. He's a legend, bro. He cashed me a ticket against Leonardo Santos as well. So that's another reason why he's a legend. You know, he was completely dead in that fight, comes back, gets a submission. Definitely should have been a losing ticket, is what it is. I also cashed him against Michael Johnson. plus 400 via decision, which was like a huge line. And I bet on Bobby Green against him via decision. So I've got a good history of betting on or against Clay Guida. So I feel like I've got a good read on him. Claudio Puelles, on the other hand, not really good read. I did lose on a Chris Grutzmarker ticket last time out. I do think Clay has the edge here. I am worried about Clay getting submitted because Puelles has got 2 knee bars now. He gets submissions late in the fight. When he's getting smashed in the fight, he gets submissions. He's obviously getting better. He's way younger than Clay. He's like 15 years younger here. I think he's got much better kicks on the feet. I think he could just kick Clay and keep him at distance. But I just feel like if Clay fights to his strengths, I think he can win this fight, man. I think he can break Claudio Puelles. I honestly do. I mean, he's not going to gas out. Puelles is probably going to gas out if he keeps on taking him down. But Clay loves to stick his head into that guillotine when he goes for takedowns. I mean, he absolutely... He has like a fetish for it or something. He does it in every one of his fights. You know, you go back to that Bobby Green fight. I mean, Bobby Green could have got the submission many times. He tried to get the guillotine a couple times, Darce, reverse position. I mean, if Puelles is smart, and I think he is, he's going to watch that and be like, all right, I'm going to guillotine this guy. So honestly, I am going to play Clay, but I am also scared because I think that guillotine, that Darce is just so live for Puelles in this fight. But I can't ignore the fact that cardio-wise, Clay can easily gas out Claudio, in my opinion, you know. Claudio doesn't have great cardio, right? And Clay Guida has great cardio. So I really think he can do what he did to Santos in a longer duration, right? Not like almost die and Santos then just gets tired and then knock him out. But I think he can gas Claudio out the later the fight goes. Boxing range, he's going to be the one landing overhands. I think he can push him up against the fence. I got Clay in this fight, but I am worried, and I'm not going to go heavy because of the submission threat. I do think he's going to be putting a couple of submissions here. Whether he taps or not, I don't know, but I'm hoping not because I'm playing Clay here.
All right. I like that we're on the same side again here, James. I really do. That always makes me feel a little bit better about my picks. I got Clay Guida. I put 2.3 units on him to win 2 at minus 115. And right now, if you look over at Superbook Sports, looks like line actually kind of came the other way. He was minus 120 when I woke up this morning. It's minus 110 apiece. So it looks like a little bit of tug of war here, line going back and forth. I do understand the submission threat. I really do. But I just, winning minutes, I think it's going to be Clay. Now, Claudio Puelles, one of these younger fighters. I like his game. I'm not going to steer away from that. I do like his game. I think he's got some upside. I think he's eventually going to turn that corner and be able to beat guys like this. I just don't know if it's this time. I don't know if it's yet. You know, Clay looks a lot like his last opponent, and he barely got out of that one. So I think Clay's on a bit of a roll, and I got to rock with the caveman here.
Yeah.
And now is the moment that you have all been waiting for. The reason my guy, James, took time out of his day to join us on the podcast, Amanda Lemos, taking on Jessica Andrade. And you know what, man? It's your girl. It's your spot. I'm going to let you take the lead here. Talk to me about the glory that is Amanda Lemos.
You know, I love this girl, as everybody knows, right? We got the L. I had to sport the L. The L is not only for lucrative, the L is for Lemos, right? And Lemos has been very lucrative for me in her entire MMA career, right? Because I've bet her like 3 times in the UFC now. I've also passed at the right time, like last time out against Angela Hill. Now, maybe it wasn't the right time because she did win the fight. Obviously, she didn't cover her line there. It's funny. I do just want to give a little disclaimer, right? I do want to give a disclaimer. Now, everybody thinks that as soon as Amanda Lemos fights, she could be minus 10,000 and I'm going to put my whole bankroll on her. Yeah, they have to understand, right? I can differentiate between my love of a fighter and making money. I mean, they're not the same thing, right? I like a fighter. I want to make money and pay my rent. I don't give a fuck if I have to bet against my favorite fighter. I bet against Linton Vassell last time out, right? A few days ago at Bellator. against Timothy Johnson. Now, that was an absolute shit show of a fight. We speak about the weekend was absolutely crazy. That was another crazy fight. Tim Johnson puts him on his ass, is looking like he's going to get the knockout. He does a flying rugby tackle, headbutt to Linton Vassell, cuts his own head open. And that's your father, by the way, right? So you obviously know what we're talking about. Or is that Ben Rothwell?
Rothwell's.
All right.
That's my uncle.
That's your uncle. That's your uncle, right? And yeah, but I say all that to say this, right? I'm going to bet against my favorite fighters if I think I can make some money. So if I shout out Amanda Lemos every single day this week, please, viewers, do not think that I'm telling you to go and bet Amanda Lemos, right? Listen to my breakdown on the fight, and I'll tell you what I think about the fight, right? Because lots of people were DMing me after the Lemos versus Hill fight and saying, oh, yo, like, that was a terrible bet. She shouldn't have won. I said, bro, I didn't bet her. What are you talking about? Why are you moaning at me that it was a split decision and she didn't cover a price tag? And I even said a disclaimer on my Twitter before the week of. I said, by the way, just because I love a fighter doesn't mean I'm betting on her. So I want to give that disclaimer again because I'm already getting the DMs. Hey, like, how much are we betting on Lemos this weekend? Want to give a disclaimer there. Now, let me get into this matchup. Lemos is going to fuck her up. Put all of your money on Amanda Lemos. I'm only joking. Right. Jessica Andrade comes in like a lunatic in all of her fights, right? She comes in winging hooks. Let me tell you something now. Amanda Lemos has got one of the best sniping games in the division, right? The 1-2 down the middle is so beautiful. You know, as everybody knows, I love Amanda Lemos. I love high-level striking, and she has very clean, crisp striking. That's why I like her so much, right? One of the reasons. So I do think that she's very live, you know, especially in the first round. She's live against anyone in the first round. We see what she did to Angela Hill in the first round. That front kick to the face, Anderson Silva style, would have knocked out 70% of women's MMA, whatever division.
Brick head.
Angela Hill has an unbelievable. She's gone. Who has Angela Hill gone to decision with? Like, honestly, Angela Hill has gone to decision with some extremely heaviness. Everybody. Like, the best hitters in the division, she's gone to decision with, right? Did she not fight Jessica Andrade back in the day? Or yes, she did.
I think she did.
She went to decision with her, right? I mean, so
Claudio hit her with some big shots.
Yeah, Claudia. I mean, she's fought Ariana kind of lost. You know, she hits hard like Amanda Lemos. You know, I mean, Angela Hill doesn't get stopped, right? I mean, not by strikes anyway. She almost got stopped in that fight. Let me tell you. I mean, that was a heavy shot. So Amanda Lemos is live in the first round against anyone. At the end of the day, man, if she doesn't look. All right, there's two sides to this coin. On one side, and I hope I'm not boring you with a breakdown. Obviously, this is a long breakdown because this is my girl. I want to go in depth on this one, right?
You're good.
So there's two sides of the coin here. On one side, I think that Amanda Lemos, I know that Amanda Lemos' best chance to win this fight is early, right? It is. But she does carry her power late, right? She definitely carries her power late. Now, she doesn't carry the cardio that late. But she still carries her power, even if she doesn't have good cardio. Similar to Francis Ngannou. We saw Francis Ngannou hurt Stipe in like round 4 of their first fight, even though he was completely gassed out. Same thing with Lemos here, right? She knocked out Myra Silva, or I can't remember her name, Myra Cuento, on the regional scene in round 3 up at bantamweight when she was fighting in the regional scene, right, with a solid knee. She dropped her in round 3. She also dropped Mizuki Inoue in round 3. So she carries her power late. So everybody's saying Lemos is round 1 or bust. They're wrong. They are wrong because Lemos can carry her power into the 3rd and 4th round. It definitely into the 3rd round, right? I definitely agree that after the 1st round, once Jessica gets her game going, she definitely is going to be, you know, she's going to take over in my opinion. I do think Jessica will take over, but do not count Amanda out. Amanda's not round 1 or bust because she doesn't have power after the 1st round because of her cardio. She's more round 1 or bust because if Jessica starts getting her game going, it's just hard to see Amanda knocking her out, right? But I just want to, that's a word of warning. Amanda Lemos will carry her power late in fights, right? She could be getting smashed and she could drop Jessica Andrade in round 3. Jessica Andrade is completely open on the feet. Trust me, I know she doesn't look it, The reason why you don't really see her get hurt often is because she's a woman at 115 pounds, right? She's fighting in the lightest weight class in the whole UFC, right? There isn't a lighter weight class. Now, she's moved up and down in weight. We know that. But the girls she's fighting, they don't have heavy knockout power. The ones that do, they've hurt her, you know? I think Joanna might have dropped her. Rose stopped her. Rose dropped her, twice. I think in the first fight, she dropped her. In the second fight, she hurt her, but she didn't drop her. She got knocked out by Weili Zhang, right? So she can get hit and she can be hurt, Jessica Andrade. So I do think Lemos is live for a shot down the middle. Now, ultimately, the way I see this fight playing out is that Jessica Andrade, she gets hurt, she gets rocked, but she comes through it, and she does end up finishing Amanda Lemos. Now, it pains me to say that, but I do think Jessica Andrade gets it done in the third or fourth round. But I'm going to be heavily rooting, as you know, for a Lemos KO. And I fully believe she can do it. But we're talking about percentages, right? We're talking about betting. We're talking about what we think is going to happen. Objectively, I think Andrade is going to knock her out. But I don't think she's going to knock her out 100% of the time. I think there's a portion of that time that Lemos knocks her out. And I'm going to be hoping that portion of the time is this Saturday, right? So yeah, man, I do think Jessica's going to get the knockout eventually. But I don't know what way I'm going to play it. Maybe fight to end inside the distance, -200. Amanda,
that's what I was going to ask.
Amanda knockout. Yeah, I think -200 is a decent price. I don't see it going 5 rounds. I honestly don't. I think -200 is a good price. I will be on that in some form. And I may be on an Amanda knockout if the price is good enough. We'll see. We'll see how it goes, my guy.
Okay. I love it, James. I love it, man. I would love to make an argument for your girl. I love it when the top ends of weight classes get mixed up a little bit. We see some fresh blood, new people for the title. But Andrade, she went up a weight class, got some good fights, got some wins, knocked a couple chicks out, and now she's returning to 115 where she's just a monster. Like she is the baddest chick with the biggest stick on the block at 115. So I see the same things that you do. I think that Lemos is more than capable of catching her. You mentioned it. She got dropped by Angela Hill. She got dropped by Rose, and then she got knocked out by Zhang. So she can be finished. It could for sure happen. But if Lemos doesn't find that perfect shot, then Andrade just does what she does. And I'm not convinced with what we saw in the Angela Hill fight that she can hold up to 25 minutes of punishment from Andrade. So I'm with you. Believe it or not, as crazy as it sounds, in a women's 115-pound fight, I think violence is the answer. Like if there's ever a weight class, unless it's an armbar from guard, you're not thinking a fight's going to be able to get finished. It's women's 115, and the way these two fight, like I got a hard time seeing this thing going all 25.
Yeah, I agree. We went on that crazy run where like all the main events went to decision. Mm-hmm. And this is kind of a similar one, like Mackenzie Dern. So I'm sorry about that, Clint. That was.
I thought it was me. I was like, what I hit?
That was me. I was on Tapology. Tapology puts the ads up sometimes. Yeah. But anyway, I hope this is not like one of them Mackenzie Dern versus Rodriguez fights where it's a woman's fight. You think there's no chance it's going a distance and it goes all 25, but I probably am going to play that -180, -190, -200 line. Fight doesn't go to distance, and I'm going to be praying that it's a Lemos TKO,
Yeah, no, I hear you, man. I think you nailed it, and that's something I really admire you for being able to split that, man, because I have such a hard time. It pained me last week to not bet my guy Will Knight. And that's where, I know this is a bad bet, and I want my guy to win so badly. I managed to stay off of it, so I'll pat myself on the back. I'm learning. But, when I'm a real big fan of somebody, you believe in them on another level. Your eyes trick you because you want to see them win, and that's a tough thing to do. So good on you being able to split that up. I'm kind of agreeing with you here. I'm going to say Andrade gets the dub, but it's really hard for me to lay -180 against someone like Lemos because of the skills she has, because of the power she has. Laying that kind of chalk against somebody who's got that nuclear option, it's still terrifying.
Yeah, I mean, like, the fight doesn't go to decision is the same price, and you're taking into account that Lemos can knock her out at any time, like.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. In my opinion, I'd rather go fight doesn't go to decision, because I honestly do think that she's going to break Lemos if she doesn't get knocked out herself. So, Jessica Andrade, fight doesn't go to decision. I'd honestly rather play the fight doesn't go to decision, and that's what I will be on here. But yeah, man, we'll see how it plays out, man. Let's all pray for a Lemos win.
Let's do it. I'm there with you, man. We'll make a one of those little candle circles on Twitter where they put what you want in there. Limos by knockout. All right, everybody. That is UFC Vegas 52. James is from Lucrative MMA, and he joined us here giving you all of his knowledge. One of my absolute favorite people breaking down fights with, man. We appreciate you taking the time out. Would love to give you the floor here. Let the people know where they can find you and what you got going on.
And you can find me on YouTube. You can find me on Twitter, all the social medias, at Lucrative MMA. I have a handicapping service as well. So if you do want to get my official picks, you can go to my website. You can see all my results. Third-party tracked. I've won every single year since I've been tracked. 98 units last year. I'm currently in profit, 16 units this year. I want it to be a lot higher than 16 units, but honestly, I'm just happy to be in profit. It has been a crazy year, as you know. Like, lots of people who are respecting the game are down heavy units. So I'm just happy to be up plus 16 units. And I'm feeling like we're going to go on a run very soon, So hopefully we can do that. But I put out lots of free content as well. So just look, you don't have to pay for my bets. I don't care. I'm here to have fun. I'm here to make money. I make enough money on the betting. So yeah, man, just follow my free content, my YouTube channel. I put out a podcast every single week. And that's it, man. Thanks for having me on, Clint. Hopefully we can do it again. And hopefully we can make some big money on Lemos winning this weekend and our other bets.
For sure, man. For sure. Going to keep it light and tight this weekend. And you hit the nail on the head. This year's been absolutely nutso, man. Being down like the 13 units that I am, I'm honestly grateful for that because, like, I know some other bettors who are also down that it's just like, holy crap, it's not just me. So definitely a rough year. We're about to turn this thing around, though. We got 6 months left, man. We got 8 months. We got 8 months left. 2022 is not over. We got a long time to stack those flapjacks, like my guy Uncle Weezy would say. Thank you all. Yeah.
So it's early, bro. It's early. Like, obviously, you want wins every week. But at the end of the day, man, I'm in this game for 10 years. So what the hell is 4 months? You know what I mean? Like, sometimes you have to just take a step back and think, it legitimately, you could lose 10 months of the year. It takes 1 or 2 month run, and you could win 50 units in them 2 months. It happens a lot, up and down streaks. So 8 months, we got loads of time to make money, bro. Hope our run starts this weekend. Not to cut you off, but we got loads of time.
No, that was worth it, man. Absolutely. I'm right there with you. Hey, everybody, thank you so much for joining us here on the show. Of course, live and free from Pub Sports Radio every single week. Total Takedown coming out on Thursday. Undefeated post weigh-in show on Friday. The show is free because you guys support. So smash the like button. Subscribe here to Pub if you haven't already. Share the show with a friend. Buy a damn pair of Stage Man underwear. We're going to get hot going in, and you're going to need it for your big balls because we're about to get on fire for the back half of 2022. Thank you all so much for hanging out in the chat tonight. Really appreciate it. And for anybody that listened to me switching my pick earlier in the evening, disclaimer, that was just a fuck you to Dirty Reg in the chat who was saying he was fading me. So I switched the pick just to mess with him. I actually am still on Maycee Barber. So everybody have a wonderful week. We'll catch you next time on the show. Love you, even the haters. Let's roll.